So I'll share the chant onto the screen. You guys, I hope to chant over there because we can't chant together because Zoom mixes up the voices. But when I chant here, you can chant over there. Om Sahna Bhavatu Sahnau Bhunaktu Sah Viryam Karvavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Gananam Tva Ganapatigam Havamahi Kavim Kavinamupamashravastamam Jeshtarajam Brahmanam Brahmanaspata Anashrinvanmurtibhi Siddhasadhanam. Om Shri Mahaganapataye Namaha Saraswati Namastubhyam Varade Kamarupini Vidyarambham Karishyami Siddhir Bhavatu Me Sada Gurur Brahma Gurur Vishnu Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha Gurureva Param Brahma Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Okay, welcome everyone to this class on Nyaya Sutras. So this is the 31st in series. We are doing this on Clubhouse also, so the recording will be available for later. So if we have seen what we have seen so far, Nyaya, we have 5 chapters, each divided into 2 sections each. So out of these 2 sections, if you combine them in a single series, you have 10 sections in all. So we have completed the 3rd chapter, first section. So in all, we are almost halfway through the text now. So we have completed 5 sections in all. We are moving on to the 6th section, or if you go by chapter, then 3rd chapter, 2nd section, right? So if you remember from till last class, what we have done is, we have done the part where we discussed about the Indriya and the Artha, the sense organs and their sense objects, how they interact with each other, and how this interaction produces a knowledge which is then transmitted to the mind, which then evaluates the knowledge and gives us a picture of the knowledge. It gives us a conclusion. That conclusion is finally what we call the work of the intellect, the buddhi. So buddhi has so far not yet come into the picture. So I'll just I'll just share the text, and we'll have to go back for a few seconds to a previous sutra because we are starting on a new section, right? A new topic. So what is this? We are looking at the 3rd chapter, 2nd part, 1st section. This is sutra number 1. What does it say? Karma Akash Sadharmyat Sanchaya. So Karma Akash Sadharmyat Sanchaya. If you read the translation down there, you have the English translation. Since the intellect resembles both action and ether, there is doubt as to whether it is transitory or permanent. So, is the word intellect or buddhi there in the sutra? It's not there. Right? Karma, akash, sadharmayat, sanshaya. Right? Something, I will not use the word buddhi right now, something that is similar to karma and akash. What is the similarity? Both are very subtle, both cannot be seen. Both sadharmya, something that is very close in nature to them. There is sanshaya, there is a doubt about its nature. So what we are talking about, the intellect here, buddhi. Why? You can infer in 2 ways. Of course, in this very chapter itself, the word buddhi will come up till the 25th sutra, in fact. But if you refer back, I'll just push this back to the 1st chapter. And the 1st chapter, if you see the 9th sutra, we just quickly go to that. So, 1st chapter, 9th sutra. So, this is the sutra. What does it say? Atma, Sharir, Indriya, Artha, Buddhi, Manaha, Pravritti Dosha, Pretyabhava, Phala, Dukha, Apavargaha, Tu, Prameyam. Prameyam, the things to be known. What are the things to be known? All these, this list is given here. Atma, Sharir, Indriya, Artha, Buddhi, Mana, Pravritti, Dosh, Pretyabhava, Phala, Dukha, Apavarga, Prameyam. So all of these are the things to be known. Okay. So these 12 things that are to be known, or out of them, we have gone through Atma, Sharir, Indriya, and Artha, the first four. What is the next? Buddhi. So Buddhi is to be seen here. So Indriya and its Artha, we were looking in the third chapter, first part. So the next one is Buddhi. So that is the subject of this third chapter, second part, where we are now moving into the part to discover the nature of the Buddhi, the intellect, right? So this is what we will look here. So if we now come back to the original sutra, the one we are starting the class with. 3, 2, 1, the one we are looking at. And what does it say? Akash karma sadharmyat sanshaya. So this intellect, this buddhi, we have to discover the nature. What is the nature of the buddhi, right? What is the nature of buddhi we have to discover. So for that, the sutra says that buddhi is something that is very subtle. It is something that cannot be perceived. Why? Because in fact, the consciousness being the ultimate perceiver, in between the next agent is buddhi. So it is very subtle. So everything that is being perceived by through the buddhi has to be grosser than it. So something that is subtle can perceive something that is grosser than it, not something that is more subtle than it, right? So in this way, like through the sense organs, we cannot see a lot of things which are beyond. So if we look at the artha also, the 5 sense objects. So what are the 5? Shabda, Sparsha, Rupa, Rasa, Gandha. So we can directly perceive Shabda, Sparsha, Rupa. But the Rasa and Gandha, even though they are subject of 2 sense organs, the eyes, they cannot see them. Right? They are beyond visible fact. They are not visible. So we cannot see them. So buddhi is being very subtle. Now, what are the 2 points of comparison? Why are we taking karma and akash? That we have to understand. So, if you are looking at karma, what is that? What is the characteristic of karma? Karma, the word we use in Sanskrit or Hindi is anitya. It is variable. It keeps changing. It finishes off. So every karma, it produces. Every action, it brings a situation into our life, and that situation is something that is transitory. It will go away after a while. After we have experienced that situation will go away, right? So that situation is transient or temporary. So is buddhi transient or temporary like the karma, or is it like akasha? So akasha is the space. Space is something that is relatively permanent, because for a manifest universe, the akash or the space continues till the birth of that universe and till the end of the universe. So for a human being in his lifetime, he will always see that akasha, that space will always be there. So for him, it is relatively eternal. In fact, through scientific inference, we can see the state of the space way back into the past and then further into the future also. So mostly we can see into the past easily by the light that comes to us through the stars. So those stars are we are seeing the light that came from them to us. So that light originated there, like a star is 4 light years away. So it will be 4 into the speed of 4 years into the speed of light. That will be the distance, right? So that in that way we can see something that was in the past even now. In that way we can infer space as something in the past and something that will continue into the future, relatively permanent. So what is the nature of buddhi? So what does buddhi do? Buddhi basically is, we say it is the decider. Whenever there are thoughts, the mind, we say mind coins the options. It gives us the different options, different so sankalpa vikalpatmakaha manaha. Mind is the one that coins different options. Then the buddhi decides which of these 2 options, which of these many options that are available to it is the one that it will accept or act upon or finally decide on. So it is the deciding entity. The buddhi will decide. So this buddhi then it makes this decision. So what is available to us? Different thoughts, vritti. Different thoughts are available to us, and from them it has to decide. So out of these The first thing that we have to remember is that we remember things that are way beyond this but current state of our body. Our body has changed a lot over the years. Our intellect, buddhi also has changed a lot over the years. And yet we remember things very early on in our birth. So what is the common factor that is going through these? So we will look into the next sutra. So in order to understand buddhi, we look into this next one. So what can be one characteristic of the buddhi? So one theory is put forward, which will be of course refuted later on. So what does it say? Vishaya pratyabhigyanat. Vishaya pratyabhigyanat. So some say that the intellect is permanent because there is recognition of objects. So what is pratyabhigya basically? Pratyabhigya is the experiencer and rememberer are the same. I don't know if you have your notes from the Tattva Bodha class. We discussed there, or even in Atma Bodha also. So I gave you some Vedantic definitions. You can write it down again if you wish. So Pratyabhikya is the process that is used to establish the continuity of an experience. How certain experiences that have long gone by are still retained by us. So like we meet someone, I gave this example so many times also. So this if you meet someone and this person comes up to you and he introduces himself and he says, I am so and so, I am Prakash, and he says you won't recognize because you are meeting this person after so many years, but then he slowly tells some things about your common life together, your college time, the fun you had, the games you went to, and so on. So when he reminds you, you are able to remember. So what happens then? How are you able to remember? Because the perceiver and rememberer are the same. That same perceiver, you were there at the time when you first met him, and you are now here. Even though that person has totally changed in appearance, even though you also have changed in appearance, but by certain traits, voice, etc., you are able to identify, and you say, "Oh yes, this is this person." So that is pratyabhigya. So what is this pratyabhigya? What is the basis of this pratyabhigya? Where does it reside? So here he's trying to prove that this intellect is permanent, or rather that there is basically what he's trying to establish is we don't need a separate consciousness. It is the intellect itself that is conscious, and that is carrying the memory of all the things that has happened to us through this. So he says, because of that, we should understand that buddhi is like akasha. Akasha is nitya, even though it is not nitya in the total sense, but it is in the sense of one manifest universe. So in this way, we are trying to prove the closeness of buddhi to akash, and not to the other element, which is karma. We took two things, right? So out of these two, we have to understand the relationship with buddhi. So he says, pratyabhigya, whatever has happened to us, whatever has been experienced by us. So when we remember that, then the entity that is remembering is the one that is the common thread through both of those experiences. So what is that entity? Is it the consciousness, the Atma, or we'll say the Jivatma in this case, the individual soul, not the total soul, the individual soul, or is it the intellect? So uh, we have why are how do we prove this? Is this a proper justification? So that we look into the next. For that we look into the next one. 3, 2, 3. Right? 3, 2, 3. So we saw that he's saying, trying to say pratyabhigya is a reasoning that we can give that the buddhi is permanent, because the buddhi is remembering something, the intellect is remembering something that it experienced earlier. So it is the common thread. So is it the common thread? So here the Nyaya is refuting that. Whatever proposition Nyaya is trying to establish, right? So he's saying sadhya samatvat ahetu. Sadhya samatvat ahetu. So he says that you cannot make this uh, prediction. So you have to prove first that this pratyabhigya is a characteristic of buddhi. What are you trying to prove? You are trying to prove that the buddhi is like nitya or anitya, eternal or non-eternal. So if you are trying to prove that, then you are giving a reasoning, because pratyabhigya, through pratyabhigya, you can say that buddhi is eternal. Pratyabhigya belongs to, the pratyabhigya is the common thread through which you can say that some experience has been remembered by an entity. So that entity, so how can you say this is a characteristic of the buddhi itself? So sadhyasam, whatever you are trying to prove, that is a, so that itself you are taking as a supposition. So that if we are looking at the logical fallacies, we'll come to that in the 5th chapter. So there is a hetvabhas. There is a fallacy, logical fallacy, hetvabhas. What is that hetvabhas? Hetu ka abhas. Hetu ka abhas means I am giving a reasoning, but actually it is not the proper reason. It appears like a reason. And wow, what is then again sadhyasam? Sadhyasam is we are giving such a reasoning where we are actually assuming to be true what is still to be proved. Sadhyasam. So it is a sadhya. It is something that we need to be proved, but actually it is sadhyasam. So sadhyasam, like a sadhya, like something to be proved. So something that we are trying to prove, but we are assuming it is true without even proving it is true, right? So he's saying that if the what is the question here? What is the question here? That pratyabhigya is a characteristic of the buddhi. Pratyabhigya buddhi ka lakshan hai. So if you have to accept that, so then you can accept that buddhi is nitya. So if you are talking about the nityatva of buddhi, the eternality of buddhi or the constant existence of buddhi, let's say in one person from birth to death. So then what we are saying is that you cannot accept that pratyabhigya to be a dharma or a property or a quality of buddhi. So uh, what is this pratyabhigya a characteristic of? It is the characteristic of the consciousness, chetanatma, the individual soul, the soul that is functioning through the total soul is there, and that same soul, it appears multiple because of the reflection in the mind of a person, of mind of the entity. So that individual soul is the one that is providing the consciousness, and so that is the actual holder of that pratyabhigya. So pratyabhigya, the Nyaya is asserting, is something that belongs to the chetanatma, to the conscious soul, and therefore it is not a property of the buddhi. You cannot use this logic to prove that buddhi is nitya. Buddhi is nitya, at least to the life of the person. So this, because you are trying to, whatever you are trying to prove, you are assuming as it is. So that is why he says we cannot accept this thing because it is sadhyasam. It is something that you are trying to prove. That very thing you are taking as an assumption that it is true in a roundabout way. So basically, what Nyaya is stating is that Atma is the one that is the holder of that pratyabhigya. It is the consciousness through which that continuity of experience is maintained, because the buddhi is not available for a long portion of time. During the time of deep sleep, etc., the buddhi is not available. But still, even in the time of deep sleep, when we wake up, what happens? I remember. What do I remember? I remember I slept well. So I didn't have any disturbance in my sleep. So even though I am not experiencing anything, still there is an entity behind that is saying that buddhi is uh, in a sleeping mode or in a dormant mode. So, and in spite of it being in a dormant mode, that buddhi is still able to retain impressions. What is the impression there? The impression that I slept well. And so when you wake up, you can say, yes, I had a wonderful sleep. I was totally undisturbed. Because in fact, if the consciousness was not there, I would not wake up. I would not wake up. Right? And then we give further more reasoning for that. The next sutra. So we'll look into the next sutra. Na Yukpat Agrehanat. Na Yukpat Agrehanat. This is 3 to 4. So the third chapter, second section, fourth part. So na Yukpat Agrehanat. Yukpat is something that is experienced together. Agrehanat, not experienced. So he says, what he's saying here, what the sutra is saying here is that in any kind of experience, there can never be a simultaneous uh, experience of anything. So whenever we experience something, it is in a chain, one by one. No, it can never be something can experience cannot happen where everything is happening at the same time. We cannot experience all the same things. So the logic for this is given more expanded in later on also. But if you can have a small basic understanding, then whenever we saw that in the part about the indriya and artha also, that when any object is experienced by us, then that experience we grasp one object at a time. Sometimes it such happens also that the mind is focused towards one object and the other object we miss completely. Someone is standing next to us or someone even passed in front of us, but my eyes are focused onto my laptop or my book that I'm reading or any other activity that I'm engrossed in. And that experience, even though it happened in front of my eyes, or a sound that even went through my ears, or a touch that I felt, I will be oblivious to that touch. I will not have that experience. I will not remember that experience. So that experience is not there. So that is why what we call there is a प्रोग्रेसिवनेस ऑफ एक्सपीरियंसेस. एक के बाद एक एक्सपीरियंस होता है, एक साथ सारे एक्सपीरियंस नहीं होते हैं. एक्सपीरियंसेस डोंट हैपन टुगेदर, राइट? सो फॉर हियर इट इज सेइंग न युगपत अग्रहणात्. सो what does this establish? What does this establish? This establishes that there is a vritti, there is a thought, and there is a holder of the thought. Vrittiman, which we will say. Vrittiman. So there is a holder of the thought, the consciousness, or the subject, or even for this section you can use the word ahamkara, the ego. So that is the holder of that thought. So without the holder, the thought you cannot experience. The holder has to be there for you to experience the thought, because it is your own experience also, that when you when you close your eyes and then you can think a lot of things. So there is someone who is witnessing the thought. Who is witnessing the thought? Your consciousness, the subject. And the thought is separate from you. That is why you can see something. No? You cannot see something that is not separate from you. So something has to be separate from you, that then only you can see. Which we see in that rule also, the Vedantic rule, or what we call the logical rule. We said that anything cannot act upon itself. Atmani, Swatmani, Kriya, Abhavat. Swatmani, Kriya, Abhavat. So that rule is there. So there, this Yukpat Grahanam, we say, there is never a simultaneous, there is a two or more things cannot be grasped at the same time. There will always be a successive experience, right? So because of that, Nyaya asserts that there is an experiencer separate from the thought, the vritti. So this vritti, what we are talking about, this is not the vritti of the mana. The vritti of the mana can be varied. It is the buddhi vritti. The buddhi of the vritti of the intellect. What is the buddhi vritti? The buddhi vritti is the deciding vritti. This is what I experienced. This is what I saw. I saw a ball. I saw a TV. I saw a cow. That is nishchaya atmika buddhi, right? So if I am seeing an animal from very far and I cannot tell which animal it is, so mind will give me options. It could be a cow, it could be a horse, or maybe it could be a deer also. It's so far away I can't tell. But when I come close, I see it's a cow. So then what does the buddhi say? Yes, the decision has been made. This is a cow, right? Or it can reach that conclusion in a lot of other ways. We have 5 different pramanas, 5 ways of knowledge, 5 ways of knowing things. So all of these panch pramanas can be used to assert the final knowledge. So when what does that buddhi vritti do? The buddhi vritti is the deciding vritti, the one that finally decides in with for us that this is the experience that I had or I am having, right? So this buddhi vritti will we say this buddhi itself is a vritti. It is a thought. It is a thought of the intellect, and there is a holder of that thought which is separate from that, and that is proved by the non-simultaneous grasping of different thoughts. A buddhi can have different vrittis, unlimited number of vrittis. So these vrittis are then grasped by the buddhi. So then we'll move on to the next one. I hope it is clear so far. I hope it's not too confusing. Manisha, George.
No, it's fine.
Mm-hmm.
It's fine.
Fine. Okay. Any doubt you can ask. Okay, so we move on to the next one. So no, we move on to the fifth sutra, 3 to 5. 3 to 5. What does this say? Apratyabhigyane cha vinash prasangah. So what we are saying is that if there is something, if you say that pratyabhigya does not happen, then there is a vinash prasanga. There is a situation where you will say that the experiencer has been destroyed. So what does it mean here? I'll just explain. So if it apratyabhigyane cha vinasha prasanga. So if we do not accept pratyabhigya, apratyabhigyane, if you do not accept pratyabhigya, then there will be a vinash prasanga. There will be a faulty logic that you will accept that the experiencer has been destroyed. Why? Because the buddhi is there that is experiencing. It has produced a vritti or a thought. This thought is giving us the knowledge about the object, that this is the object I have experienced. This is the ball that I saw, or whatever object that I saw. So this is the conclusion of the buddhi. But what is happening to the buddhi? That vritti is being destroyed one after the other. That thought has come, then another newer thought will come to replace it. So then the buddhi, of course, is not the same buddhi. We are having a different buddhi now. My first buddhi was this is a ball. The next buddhi is this is a TV. The next buddhi is this is a floor, and so on. Whatever is lying before us. So then pratyabhigya cannot be established. The knower has to be a common thread through all the experiences. So the buddhi, there is another reasoning you would know from earlier class also, like in Tattva Bodha and Atma Bodha. Why buddhi cannot be the experiencer? Because buddhi is jada. Buddhi has no consciousness of his own. Why? Because in deep sleep, buddhi disappears. So then if it is disappearing there, that means it is not present there. So that means it is a temporary entity. So this means that buddhi cannot be the holder of that memory. It cannot remember something if in between it was absent. If in between it was absent, then it cannot be the holder of that thought. That holder of the thought must definitely be the consciousness, the jivatma. So he says, apratyabhigyane cha vinasha prasanga. If we do not accept pratyabhigya, then the holder of that pratyabhigya will also go into extinction if we are accepting buddhi as the holder of the pratyabhigya. But if we accept the consciousness, then the consciousness is there all through, then we can accept. So there this clash will not arise in the logic. So we move on to the next one. So what does this buddhi, what is actually this buddhi, or what is its relationship to the consciousness? 3 to 6. So what does this say? Krama vrittitvat ayukpat grahanam. So something it has been said earlier also. So just reasserting it in a different way. Krama vrittitvat ayukpat grahanam. So if this buddhi that we are saying is eternal, then what is the characteristic of something that is eternal? It should be nitya, always present, and then again it should be all pervading. It should be all pervading, right? So if it should be all pervading, then it should be present at all places at the same time. So we'll come to that point also later on. But if you look at it here, so that means that it should be able to cognize all events at the same time. That is the conclusion. So that krama vritti will not happen. So krama vritti will not happen. The sequential experience will not happen if buddhi is eternal. So that is a flaw in the argument which they are exposing, which is being exposed here. He says that krama vrittitvat ayugpat grahanam. So if because there is a non-simultaneous experience of objects, there is a sequential experience, they are not experienced simultaneously, then that means that because it is happening in a sequence, krama, there is a sequence to it. So that means that this buddhi, it cannot be nitya, and that is all pervading. So we have two logics against the eternality of buddhi or the nityatvam of buddhi. Of course, we know that it goes into dormant state in deep sleep. But here what the two logic is being given is, firstly is that the buddhi, it cannot be the holder of apratyabhigya because that you cannot, that has not been proved. And then there is the non-sequential experience of objects. So because this experience is non-sequential, that means the experience is sequential. But if Buddhi was eternal, then there should be simultaneous experience. So simultaneous experience. So if experience is happening one after the other, that means the Buddhi is not all pervading. Otherwise, it would have reached to all the objects at the same time, and then it would have the experience at the same time. But that does not happen. We have seen this in our life. We have seen this in our common experiences. So because of these common experiences, we can easily understand that the buddhi or the intellect is not all pervading. Its experiences are limited to what we call one section, ekadeshiya, one area of the total experience. It can experience only one entity at a time. We'll move on to the next one then. So if this krama vritti is to be accepted, then as an extension to the previous sutra, 3 to 6 we saw, 3 to 7 now. Apratyabhigyanaha cha vishayantar vyas sangat. Apratyabhigyanaha cha vishayantar vyas sangat. So here what we are saying is that apratyabhigyanam, it is not pratyabhigya. What is not pratyabhigya? Because vishayantar vyas. What is vyas and what is samas? Samas is something that we can shorten. So if we combine two words together, we are doing a samasa. And what is a vyasa? If we are using a one word and we are giving a definition of it. So that definition is vyasa. So it is expanding on the single word. We are using multiple words to expand on them. So vishayantar vyasa. So all the experiences that we are having, all of them are not experienced together. That experiences are happening in a non-sequential manner. So because of this, we cannot accept that pratyabhigya is the pratyabhigyanam, means the pratyabhigya is not a property of the buddhi. It is not something that can be carried by the buddhi, right? It cannot be carried by the buddhi because buddhi is only grasping one vishay at a time. Vishayantar vyasa. So vishayantar vyasa sangat. So because the buddhi is grasping only one of them at a time, So we can say, whenever we are experiencing something, then if any experience is very strong, it is overpowering, you can say. If any experience is overpowering us, then that experience we have to understand mm, can draw our attention away from other experiences. It can draw our attention away from other experiences. So then only that experience will stick in the buddhi, and finally it will be carried forward. But the other experience will not be carried forward, right? So in this way, we are saying that the buddhi, it cannot be the basis for pratyabhikya. Then look into the eighth one, na gatya bhavat. Na gatya bhavat. Or we split even this one up to na gati abhavat. Na gati abhavat. So there in buddhi there is a what we say gati abhav is not there. What is gati abhav? So if we are looking at something that is, we saw all pervading, then what is the characteristic of something that is all pervading? Like we say the Atma is all pervading. Huh. Or we say something in the relative sense, which is the other thing we say is almost all pervading. Next one after Atma, closest to it. What is the most pervading? Let me give you a clue. The element.
Is it space?
Space, right? Very
Akash.
good. Very good. Akash. Very good. Right? So Akash. So is there gati in Akash? No. Right? It cannot move. Akash cannot move. Whatever the movement of Akasha is, that is another matter. Okay, that is relative to the expansion of space is something that is not a subject of common human experience. That is why Akash actually is not eternal, but relatively eternal. So that relative eternality applies to Akasha. So there, Gati is not there. But of course, in Atma also, Gati is not there. Why? Because it is everywhere. So where will it go to? It cannot go from here to there. No. If there is something that is in one point in space, and then it has to go to another point in space, then gati or movement can happen. But in the case of Akasha, that gati is not there, and of course in the case of Atma, that gati is not there. Gati wahan pe nahi hai. But where is that gati? That gati is in more grosser objects. So if you move any of the other elements, they will have gati. They are less subtle. So Vayu has gati, Agni has gati, Jal has gati, Prithvi has gati. All of them have gati. They have movement. So they are not all pervading or even relatively pervading. So when we talk about the all pervasiveness of Akash, it is in relation to the other elements. All the other elements are within it. None of the elements are outside. So that is why there cannot be a movement of the Akasha itself. The sky, the space itself cannot have movement. And so similarly, if we accept Buddhi to be eternal, then it will not have any movement. So, and then the same thing will happen, which we discussed earlier. Then it will have a simultaneous experience. It will be reaching everywhere at the same time. So all the experiences will happen together. So this sequential experiences will not be proved if we attribute the eternality to Buddhi, right? So that is how we have to understand. We can move to the next one then. Na gati abhavas. Because there is no gati abhav is not there. That means gati is there in the buddhi. Of course, we can see our thoughts move. So that means the buddhi is not present everywhere. So that means it is not eternal. So someone says, I'll just read the sutra first, 3 to 9. Swatik. Anyatva abhimanavat tat anyatva abhiman. So anyatva abhimana. What is anyatva abhimana? A perception of difference. Something that is appearing different but not actually there. Okay. So what is that Anyatva Abhiman? In which object can we see? In the Sphatika. In the Sphatika. So what is a Sphatika? Sphatika is basically a crystal, something that can reflect. Hmm? So in Sphatik, there is Anyatva Abhimana. What is the Anyatva Abhimana? If you bring anything of any color next to the crystal, it will take on that color. It will reflect that color. So a blue flower or a red flower that is placed next, or any colored object, let us say, is placed next to a crystal, then the crystal, even though the color has not changed, it will appear to have the color of those objects, right? And it will appear to have the color of all of those objects. So that same crystal can appear blue, it can appear green, it can appear red, or whatever colors that are available to different people. So that Sphatik has Anyatva Abhiman. That very same Sphatika there is only one Sphatika, one crystal, but it will appear different to different people. So in that way, Sphatik Anyatva Abhimanavat, Tat is what? The word that, that is being used for that buddhi. So he says, just like you have a Anyatva Abhiman in Sphatik Mani, why can't you have that Anyatva Abhiman in the buddhi also? You can say that the intellect is one, it is eternal, it is everywhere, but it is appearing in some vritti or some thought is coming close to it. It is being reflected in the buddhi. And so because of that, the buddhi is taking the shape or the color of that thought. Right? So that is how he is trying to project the similarity of the crystal to the buddhi. What he's looking to do to maintain the vibhutva, the all pervasiveness of buddhi, or we can say the nityatvam of buddhi, the eternality of buddhi. So to that there is a reply in the next one. So what does it say? Na hetu abhavat. So we say this is not so because there is no proof. Why? Because in the case of the buddhi, what is happening is the thought itself is the one that is being perceived. There is nothing else that is being perceived. There is no common shape, that a separate shape that a buddhi has that you can perceive, and in that their colors are imposed. So there, this cause is absent, because in the case of Sphatik, what is happening is the imposition of color is artificial. The imposition of color is artificial. You take away the color, the colored object, and it will again go back to its original size and shape. So it has its own size and shape. But in the case of buddhi, it does not have its own size and shape. So he says, na hetu abhavat. We don't accept that. There is no proper reasoning being given here. The cause you are giving is faulty, because this Sphatik mani, actually it does not become many things. It does not become many things. It remains the same Sphatik mani. It appears many things. But the buddhi becomes many things. Buddhi is different. I have a ball buddhi. I have a suitcase buddhi. I have a TV remote buddhi. I have a mobile buddhi. In succession. So my buddhi is taking on different size, shapes, and so on. So it is not like a guna that has been given temporarily and then taken away. It is something that becomes the character of the buddhi itself. The buddhi vritti is what defines the buddhi. So he says in this, so we cannot accept this assertion of yours that how should we not accept the buddhi like the crystal. So that example that you have given is not proper, right? It is not proper. We'll move into more detail also in this one. So we are trying to prove the nature of buddhi, which Nyaya is saying that it is not acceptable that it is eternal. So Nyaya is saying buddhi is not eternal. So स्फटिकेप्य परात्परोत उत्पत्ति है क्षणिकत्वात् व्यक्ति नाम अहेतु. if I split it a bit more further, then sphatic. Sphatic is the sphatic mani. Sphatike. Api. Apara. Apara. Aparot utpatte hai. Shanikatva. Vyakti naam ahetu. So there is a theory, Shanikvad, something that is transitory, changing from moment to moment, and yet there it gives the appearance of a single entity. So what is the most common example of this Shanikatvad? It is the flame. There is a flame of a lamp, which is actually different flames. That flame is changing from second to second. But because of what we call the persistence of vision, that flame appears as the same flame. So he is saying here, just Shanikatvat Vyakti Naam, just like this Shanik experience, the experience of this in Vyaktinam, in people. So all these bodies that we have, they are changing from day to day. They are changing from time to time. So this same example, this same logic, you cannot apply it to the Sphatik. This you cannot apply it to the Sphatik Mani or the crystal. Why? Because this Sphatik Mani, what is the problem here? The problem is that in the case of the body, there is an entity that is holding together to the body. There is an experiencer of the body through which the body moves from one state to the other. But in the case of the Sphatik Mani is itself holding on to that nature of it, the structure of it. And even in the case of Sphatik Mani also, it will change with time. So you cannot say that because of this perception, what we call persistence of vision, the same flame is appearing like one flame only, even though there are many flames. So the same case of the body also, they are one. So the Sphatik Mani also is actually one only. So Buddhi basically. So we come back to the Buddhi only, the main topic here. The Buddhi is one only. It is the one that is persisting through all experiences. So you cannot apply this logic of Shanikvad. The Shanikvad that the Buddhi is changing from one Buddhi to the other. So why should we not consider it as one Buddhi? Why should we not consider it as one Buddhi tainted by different experiences, just like in the Sphatik? So that Buddhi is appearing like many, but actually it is one Buddhi. And then this same logic we can apply. But he says we cannot apply this because just like if you take it in the case of the body also, the body is changing from day to day. That change has at its substratum, behind that change, there is a conscious entity. There is an Atma which is holding the body together through all those changes, and that is able to remember the experiences of the body right from birth and to the point where we are currently at, or you can say from birth to death, right? So with this is saying that you like the crystal, you cannot say the Buddhi is the same one Buddhi only appearing as many. The Buddhi is in fact many. It is composed of parts. It is composed of separate, distinct experiences. Right? So then we go to the next one. We have a few minutes. I think we'll start this next, and then we will wind up for today. So this, in modern days, later days, Buddhism has taken this theory also, this Shanikvad. So they prove a lot of other things to that. So here, Nyaya has already given the refutation for that. So Niyam Hetu Abhavat. This is the 12th Sutra. Niyam Hetu Abhavat Yatharth Darshanabhya Anugya. So Niyam Hetu Abhavat. So he says that we cannot accept this because you cannot apply different logic to the same thing. you cannot say that there are different knowledges. ज्ञान में भेद नहीं है. नियम हेतु अभावात. You cannot accept. You cannot apply a single rule and then for a second entity apply a different rule, because so what are you doing? You are saying that this fatigue money you cannot confirm as singular entity by the postulate of Shandikvad. So there, what happens is there is a change. Yathartha darshanam anugya. There is a change in the Swatik mani itself. So the Swatik mani also can become, it can change its state with time. It can change its position, its size. Some of them, some crystals, they grow when you put them in a liquid. So there also that change will happen. So he says, even the Swatik mani example that you are giving is not sufficient, not a complete example, because that Swatik mani is something also that will change with time, right? And so that Swatik mani also you cannot accept as a continuous entity, right? So of course the buddhi, we are proving that it is not a continuous entity. The other example that you are giving to prove the continuity of buddhi is, you are giving the example of Swatik mani, the crystal. So that crystal itself also is not a eternal entity, right? So in this way, so far we have proved clearly that this buddhi is something that is not eternal. It has a characteristic of changing. It has a characteristic of not being all pervasive, and so therefore it is confined to single area. That is why there is the simultaneous experience of any object. There is a successive experience of any different objects rather. So one object is experienced, then another, and all cannot be experienced together. So that means you have to admit that pratyabhigya, or the recognition that something that was experienced earlier is known to the current entity. That means there is a soul that is behind the buddhi, because buddhi is not always present. So that means there is a consciousness separate from the buddhi, which is the experiencer, and which carries forward the impressions from one buddhi to the next buddhi. So that experience resides in that in the consciousness. It is the consciousness itself which is the one that provides the input, or one which retains the input from one entity and so on to the other, and not the buddhi. Buddhi is a transient entity, something that changes from time to time, right? So I think we'll wind up for today. It's time also. We'll continue in the next class. Anyone wants to ask something? Anything unclear? Manisha, George? All good?
Yeah, all good.
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll wind up for today. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. Shri Guru Pyo Namaha. Hari Om. Okay, thank you everyone. Thank you for coming to the class.